At a time when our planet and humanity is being deeply challenged, having a sense of community and support is imperative. But together, we can and will individually raise our consciousness, which will lead to communally raising it, and ultimately raise the consciousness of this planet. So tonight, please bring your feelings in the comments.
Hi.
That was so cool. I love the intro.
Did you love the intro? Can everyone hear us okay? Tonight, we have a new show, a new live brought to you by Meg and Miriam. And hopefully we will have Seth with us next week also. So my name is Miriam. And for anyone that is new, I'm a psychic medium. I'm also a spiritual coach. And tonight with Bring Your Feelings, I'm hoping that we can all find a sense of community, a safe space to support each other, share how we're feeling, what we're needing as far as support, connection, expressing what's bothering us, that because sometimes there's things bothering us that we can't express to maybe even our friends or our loved ones or friends at work. So I'm hoping that Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, with Meg, with Seth, and with possibly others that'll be joining us, we can all just get together and kind of share these feelings. So we have Seth, who won't be here tonight, even though he might jump on later, but he is an executive coach. He's a recognized speaker. He's an author. He's had 20 years of HR leadership, so he'll be with us, if not later on tonight, next week. But of course, we've got Meg here, who is a nurse. She inspires her very large community of over 1 million followers across multiple platforms to embrace resilience, joy, and adventure in every day. She is a travel and lifestyle creator with a passion for helping others and storytelling, which brings us to exactly where we want to be tonight. And that is sharing our story and having you guys share with us where you're at. What are you feeling? What are you needing to get you through tonight, tomorrow, or this week? I can tell you for myself, today was a day where I was feeling extremely overloaded, and we forget, we have our own personal stuff, our own personal struggles, whether that's trying to lose weight, trying to get in shape, trying to eat better, combined with your immediate family, whether it's a spouse, children, whomever, combined with your job, and then combined with our in-laws, our extended family, combined with the planet, society, community. And so as all of that starts to pile up, what do we start to feel? The pressure.
Yes. That's exactly.
And for me, I wanted to start this. I've been wanting to start this for a while. You can ask Meg. I keep threatening. We need to start this. And then last week felt like a pressure cooker. And I just was like, let's just do it. Let's just jump on. And eventually people will join in and start to share what they're feeling in that moment or this week or last week. And what I'd like to start incorporating too is some like basic astrological reads for the week, so you guys can get a better understanding of, oh, that's why I was feeling like that. Or maybe, the pressure I've been feeling may lift when certain planets shift and change. So we may, if I can bring that in next week, I'll start that in next week. But just getting us to understand and just talk about what's going on. For me, I use the word pressure cooker, where you're feeling like everything is closing in on you. And I can't even say that that's in my personal life. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling it coming from everywhere else. And that will inevitably affect my personal life. I'm edgy. I'm short. Just this morning, my husband, Bruce, was like, what's the matter? Why are you short? And I'm like, what the answer always is? What? Nothing's wrong. You know how we do that? What? Nothing. Okay, that response right there is something. And I took a second and I was like, "Ugh, it's a lot. Nothing anyone, nothing you can fix, but it's a lot. And sometimes you can't even articulate it. It's just like, why am I feeling this build up to something, that's causing this internal anxiety that I never used to have before,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important to have a space like this to talk about it, because I feel like there's so much going on in my head and in my life and in general, where anytime that I go to my regular entertainment, which is TV or social media, I'm like bombarded with just disasters all over the place happening. And it's a lot to take on. And it's like I internalize it and I internalize it, but I need a place where I can just talk about, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling today.
And I can imagine, Meg, I don't have kids. What is that like to have that, what you just described, and then on top of that, have children, young children that you're raising?
Yeah, it's really an important thing to kind of filter it for them. You can't shelter them from what's happening in the world, because you want to be the person that introduces it to them and helps them filter it, whatever is going on. What is a little bit difficult in my personal experience is they spend a lot of time with their father, and we have very different ideas on different things. So we were discussing ICE raids and citizenship and things like that, and they repeated some rhetoric that I had to just fact check and say, hey, let me show you, not that there's sides to this, but there's reality, and we just got to hold on to the truth. And we need to make decisions based on the truth, not what we've heard from people. And, I explained to them, hey, your grandparents, my parents, went through the process of getting citizenship. And it's not like you just walk up and you knock on the wall and say, hey, I'm here, I would like to do this legally. It's like a 12-year, 20-year process that you have to continually work on to be legal, and when people say they should just come here legally, they're trying to. It's a whole process. So having to explain that to them and saying, abuelo and abuela, they are citizens now, but there's also some things about like birthright citizenship being taken away. And it was just so much that you have to now explain to them, because a lot of rhetoric that they might consume from friends or social media is so extreme. So you have to kind of pull them down and like, let's just focus on reality. So it is like another job aside from just raising them. You have to like filter a lot of the world.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes, mostly energy. I would say energy, because where was I? Oh, I was at Disney with one of my friends, and there was a baby that was screaming, like maybe 2-3 years old, screaming, throwing a fit. And we're just sitting there like, la, 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 just talk. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. If it's my own child, it siphons my energy so much. Or if my child is upset, or they make a mistake and their feelings are now weighed down, oh my gosh, it like affects mine.
Yeah.
Because we're so energetically connected. So yeah, 80% of energy. Yeah, for sure. ABBA.
Yeah. I can imagine, taking on, it really is, looking back, it's different than when I was growing up. So my mother, what the pressure she had is very different. And I feel like, my mom made an interesting point where she said, we're all trying to do our best internally, like I was saying, like whether it's trying to eat better or raise kids better or lose weight or whatever that is, you have that, and you're trying to successfully find a way to achieve that. But yet every time you get up, you're feeling weighted down, and I feel like, from a spiritual perspective, we can talk about how the planet has been increasing its speed. Its time has sped up. And because of that, We're feeling the pressure. We're feeling the pressure to shift and evolve and move with the planet, because the intention is that we are to raise the vibration, and not one person can do that alone. Everyone has to do it individually, and then we have to come together to do that. But if I say that to you, Meg, and you're like, I just came from work and I have kids and I'm dealing with an ex-husband, like, now you're asking me to help raise the vibration of the planet. Like, where does that fit in? How does that fit in?
Trying to survive.
Because we're in survival mode. So if we can find a space where we can share how we're feeling and move ourselves out of survival mode and into a place that is more manageable. What does that look like? What does that mean? You know, what is the one thing, tiny little thing you take off your plate that could make your day not feel like you're just surviving, but you're managing it?
Yeah, I think everybody has what they feel like is downtime. Like, not every second of our 24-hour period is scheduled. Even if we're super busy, everybody, I mean, look at your settings on your phone. Like, you do spend time doing something that you don't necessarily have to do. So whether that's watching YouTube, whether it's going through social media, whether it's reading news articles, if you take the time that you usually use to decompress or doom scroll, you know, whatever that is, an hour out of your day, and you choose instead to look within and sit with your thoughts and sit with your feelings, I think that's a great way to start to get out of survival mode. Because survival mode is go, go, go. Don't pay attention to anything around you. Task lists, keep going. But if you take time to stop and look around and hear your own thoughts and sit with your own feelings, I think that's the first step to get out of that survival mode and acknowledge where you are.
Right. And, you know, I think it's interesting because a lot of people say to decompress, they scroll on their phone. And I find that I do that after I've had a very hectic day. Whereas if I had a day that wasn't very hectic, was a little bit more managed, and I keep using that word because it's the only word that sort of comes to mind, a day where I didn't feel like things pulled me out of control. You know, like it was sort of like I was able to, okay, this is how I thought the day was going to go and feel and look. And so there weren't any crazy surprises, right? And I find that I don't come home and decompress on my phone then. I'm actually seeking something like a short meditation, a longer walk with my dogs. Because like when I walk my dogs, I am not on my phone unless I am hands-free and it's a situation like with a family member that they need to talk. But outside, quiet, dogs, focused, you know, maybe I'll extend that walk. And so you notice how your day can determine what your decompressing will look like. Because let's talk about decompressing on our phones. That's not a thing. I know what
escapism.
It's what?
It's escapism is what it is.
Right. And I get that. And I'm not saying don't do it, because we all do it to a certain degree. And it's fun.
I do it.
Of course. I think it's more like if we're trying to not feel like, when I said I feel like sometimes everything's closing in on me, well, getting on my phone is not going to help that. So there has to be, but so then what does that lead to next? How anxiety is almost a addiction, right? Because the minute you have downtime, you grab the next thing that will fill that addiction, which is the phone. And that keeps feeding the anxiety. And when our anxiety is being fed, it keeps us moving. It keeps us getting through the day. It gets us out of bed. It gets us through our work day. But if we aren't being fed with anxiety, what type of choices are we going to make? And are we comfortable sitting in a space that isn't filled with anxiety? And I'm going to be honest with you. When you feel like things are closing in on you, anxiety is what sometimes you think it pulls you out of that, because anxiety is like a caffeine burst, right? It's a burst of energy, and you can use it however you want to use it. And if you don't have that anxiety, where do you go? You either go deep into a depression, or you're able to catch yourself and navigate finding ways to energize yourself without that anxiety rush.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it is like an addiction, because you look for that little like dopamine hit of like, oh, I gotta do this. And what's next? It is an addiction. It is something, because it's my norm.
And with the way the world is as a whole, there's always something you can find to feed that addiction on your phone, as far as the news cycle or on social media, and we're taking it. Someone was telling me how, think about it, before cell phones, before television, when there was just newspaper. Hang on, I gotta let the dogs out.
Oh, it's so cute.
You were taking in how many news stories a week? Like what, 5 or something? I don't know. How big was the newspaper, right? I mean, now the amount of information we take in, you couldn't even count on your fingers. Like, I don't know. And so the brain is constantly taking in information, and we become addicted to that movement and to that information that's feeding us and keeping us going, and that's feeding the anxiety and feeding the depression and feeding this feeling like everything's closing in. What do you do, Meg? That's a kind of a quick way to decompress that doesn't include the phone.
I go for a walk. So my apartment building is right next to a lake, and it has like a lakefront, like little, almost like a river walk that goes pretty far down. And I just walk, and I don't put my headphones in because I'm paranoid. So I just walk, and I walk fast. And I think just that movement in my body is so helpful, because for me, when I get overstimulated, I feel like it's trapped in my body. And if I'm moving or sweating or anything, I feel like it gets a little bit better. But there's also a component of society today where it's almost expected to be overly informed, because if I go and hang out with friends, or I go meet new people, or I go to an event or someone's house where there's people, we're talking about current events and current events in the country, current events in other countries. And it's like an expected thing that did you hear about such and such? And did you hear about this other government? And it's like, I want to stay informed, because I also want to connect with other people. I feel a little bit of that pressure to stay informed. What if I didn't pay attention at all to the news or current events? Would I be able to participate in public conversations?
Oh, it's really interesting. That's an added pressure that you almost didn't realize you had.
Yeah, maybe I need dumber friends. Just kidding.
But it also kind of makes me ask the question, like, when we have a pretty big age gap, right? Because I'm 51 and you're in your 30s.
I'm almost 40.
But when I was almost 40, I wasn't talking about, like, politics just wasn't a thing for me. Like, I know some people do talk about it, and that's fine, but that wasn't, like, what happened to to me, it's like I was still in my 40s. I was still focused on career and whatever my immediate surroundings were. And same with my friends, and so times have changed is my point.
Yes, absolutely. Times have changed. I mean, growing up, my parents were very social. We always had people over and dinner parties and things like that. And I remember it was a very understood thing that you don't talk about religion or politics. Like, that was, you just don't bring that up. It's rude. It's something quiet, but the term politics, bringing up politics, it's a very different climate now, because now politics is about harming people, and it's about taking away people's rights. There's a lot of dangerous harm that can come from from politics. So it's almost like you can't not get involved because
Right.
it's happening to you. It's happening to your neighbor. It's
Right.
something that everybody feels like they need to get involved and be a part of and vote for the things that they believe in.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, Violet saying everything feels futile. Am I saying that word right? Futile? Is it? Which one? Doesn't matter.
I guess you're British. I don't know.
You're British.
Maybe think of British pronunciation.
So Violet, exactly. And things aren't, but this is why I wanted us to come together so we could remind ourselves and each other that things aren't. They feel that way, and that's a valid feeling because that can be true too. But in order to move out of that feeling, we have to come together and talk about it and say, how do we not feel like things are futile? Well, local government, local communities, local voting, like Meg was saying. And it doesn't matter. We're not talking about a certain side. We're saying whatever side you are on and believe in, you find that. Like, that's really important. And that's why we're all feeling the way we're feeling. That's why we're feeling like the world is closing in on us because, I think the more that you reach out to your community, like for me, and my husband's been doing a really good job at this too. Like we live in a really big apartment complex. So we're just acknowledging the people that live in our complex. Like, hi, good morning. Like, how are you? What's going on? Like letting people know that I see you and I'm here, because you never know if that person could, how you could, and like, not to sound really bad, but in this environment, I do look at the people that I immediately am surrounded by in my home. And I think, if there was a fire, if there was this, if there was something awful happen, I want to know you, and I want you to know that I will help you and you will help me. Like, that's the thinking now. And so the more that you are conscious of your neighbors, literal neighbors, your coworkers in a different way, so you feel like you have each other, I feel like that's where this futile feeling will start to dissipate, because you're not alone. The more we isolate, the worse that feeling gets.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that there's been a lot of cultural changes, especially in the last 50 years, where we've started to live such isolated lives. And, we're not in these communities where, that concept of like going to your neighbor's house to borrow a cup of sugar. Mm-hmm. Who does that, But we need to go back to that sense, because when we're isolated, it's a lot easier to feel alone. It's a lot easier to feel like I don't need to care about what's happening over there. Mm-hmm. There's a wall between us. Mm-hmm. The less that we isolate, the more that we can help each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's missing right now, is everybody feels really scared and isolated. Well, what can we do? That's what we can do, is if we band together, and even just like a simple hello to the people in your apartment building. Glad you said that. As a woman of color, I grew up with an awareness of politics. You can't afford to just not be aware. Like, politics maybe in, I don't know, the 1920s and 1930s is, a different climate, different issues. But today, 2025, it feels like you can't ignore what's happening.
And I think, like, based also what Kimberly's saying, if I'm following correctly too, is as white women that, we had the luxury to not think about things that women of color have always had to be conscious of and aware of. And I wish I would have become more conscious of a lot of this stuff at a younger age, but I guess it doesn't matter. As long as you come into it, no point in looking back. Like, as long as you find that awareness and consciousness, and can look at someone like Kimberly and say, okay, I see you. I get it. I'm with you. And it's not that we weren't with you. It was that there's, you had, what's the word? Entitlement. where you didn't have to, or that wasn't in your.
Yeah, or just like ignorance. Like I need to see that that is a real issue. I need to see that people are experiencing that it's real.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for that, Kimberly. Yeah, it's the need for community coming back around now. And I think, it's sad, but it seems like it's taking these big momentous events to force community on us. It shouldn't take that, but it is. In order for us to find community, we're having to go through some really painful things. Everyone does seem busy now. I think that, I think sometimes we all choose busy as a way to avoid.
But I feel like we wouldn't be so busy if we had each other. There's a lot of things that I do, especially now becoming a single mom in the last year, where I do now everything. And before I had, somebody to help put the kids to bed, take them to school, pick them up from school. Like now I do everything. And if we're so busy because we're doing everything by ourselves. But if we had community, if you saw your neighbor, like, hey, I notice you always come home late on Thursdays, so do I. What if we take turns like doing a crock pot dinner and we have dinner late together? Then one of you doesn't have to cook that day or worry about it. Like we're so busy because we're not helping each other.
Right. That saying, it takes a village,
Yeah.
is there for a reason. I mean, I look at just how, like, my nieces, like how many people, like my one niece, just to get her moved out of the house at 18, it took 3 or 4 of us, not because she's lucky that she had that many of us that cared, but she needed the different support. We all offer a different type of support. I offer something different than her mom does, than Nana does, than her dad does. And so if a child is lucky enough to have all of that, that's why it takes a village. And then it takes pressure off of mom because I can pick up the slack or Nana picks up the slack. That's why Nanas are there, to ideally help mom. But that isn't always the case anymore, right?
Yeah, I do think there's a little aspect of that is, I don't want to say our fault, but yeah, sure, I'll say that. It's a little bit our fault as women, as we become more independent and more just autonomous. I think that there is less asking for help from each other. And I see it really relevant in my life where I'm like, oh, I don't want to bother them. Oh, they're too busy. I mean, I could do it on my own. Like if I could do it on my own, why would I ask for help? Oh my gosh. That's something that I'm learning in this last month. It's not a weakness to ask for help, whatever it is. Cooking, I need to borrow $20. Can you watch my son for 2 hours? Like, is this outfit weird? Like help, like anything. Like asking for help is not a weakness.
Yeah. But why do you think we think or thought that it was? You know what I mean? At what point in your life did you stop asking for it?
When I was praised for taking everything on. She just can do it all. And look how much she can do. And, she has a job and she has kids and she takes care of, look at her house and she can like look put together. And it was like, it was praised to be so overly achieving in every area of your life. And you're like, oh, well, I'm getting validated for that. It must be valuable. If I'm only good at 2 things and I put my all into 2 things, well, that must not be as good as me doing literally everything like a psychopath.
Interesting.
Not normal, not good.
Not normal at all, right?
No. I don't want to be Superwoman. I don't want to be praised.
But that's also a societal thing. Like you read about that all the time in magazines about female CEOs or female actresses or that make all this money and they behave as if they're doing it all themselves. you know, and I think that there's nannies involved, and I think that there's housekeepers involved, and I think that there's a lot of other things involved. But I think the bottom line is why is it expected that women should be doing all of this on their own? Like, why is that expected? And then why is that applauded? Like you said, like it shouldn't, people should turn around and say, let me help you. Like someone should be saying, you're taking on all of this. Let me help you. Not good for you. Go get them. It's let me help you.
Like if you see an old woman crossing the street and she has 6 bags of groceries and she's hobbling around and she's not able to like see the cars in front of her, are we like, you go girl? Or are we like, oh my God, let me help you? What are you doing carrying all of that by yourself? That's crazy.
Oh my God, that's such a I don't know, that visual of a little lady with all those bags and you going, you go girl, was really bad, but funny and true.
Because it's the same. We should not be like,
oh my God,
so great. Look at you drowning. A+. I'm going to give you an Emmy for that. No, we should be like, oh no, I'm coming over. That's not okay. I think Cardi B was I love her, but she did an interview and she was talking about, you know, being pregnant and working and creating a new album. And she said something about, I hire out everything that I don't have to do. I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean, watching my kids, making phone calls, writing an email. If I can hire it out, I'm going to do it. I can't hire someone out. I'm going to grow this baby because she was pregnant. She's like, I don't want to do anything that I don't have to do. And I was like, yeah, if you have the resources, that's amazing. That's a better attitude.
Right. And I think all of us, if we had the money in that position where you have the financial support, you would go, okay, well, I can afford to have someone, you know, bring someone in to help clean the house. Like that'll help me, you know, but of course, if we don't have those resources, then you are literally doing everything on your own. Like pretty much 90% of the women on the planet are, right? They're doing everything on their own. And
who does that benefit?
The patriarchy?
Yes. That's why it's so prevalent and praised. Doesn't benefit us.
No.
We're making everyone else's dreams come true.
And like Violet's saying, with social media so prevalent, not doing everything is shamed, and then you're viral. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, social media. And we need to learn to receive the help offered. Yes.
Yeah. Receiving love and receiving help is like half of being able to ask for it.
But also, you know, I think everyone has their own limit of where they feel ashamed. Like everyone has, like, for example, like I might say, like, it's easy for me to say, yeah, if I had the money, I would hire someone to clean my house, where someone else might be like, well, no, like I'm going to clean my house myself. Like that's not a limit for me, you know, and anything above and beyond that is for them. Like for me, that doesn't cause shame. For me, that's like, oh yeah, someone really needs to clean my house. But someone else might view that as embarrassing for themselves. You know what I mean? Like to them, it might be like, that's embarrassing to admit that I would have to ask someone to clean my house. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in a way that feels like that's important to them, that's their ownership, that's important to them. And they want to be able to do that, you know? And so I think everyone has their level of at what point are you feeling embarrassed to ask for help, you know?
Yes.
Like what has happened to where you go, no, now I'm too deep in this. I can't ask for help. I'm too deep in, you know? Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think also everybody has their own version of empowerment and feminism. Like everybody's life is not going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people, like for me, making my own money since before I was married was really important and scary to me, because I see from personal experience, women who couldn't leave certain situations because they were financially bound. And then when they did leave, it was, I mean, their lives were destroyed. They had to downgrade. They were like practically homeless. So someone who maybe relies on someone else's income, their spouse's income, that was something that internally I used to be like, oh, I never want to be like that. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's just my version of, I'm scared of that and I want to be safe in that way. So yeah, everybody has like a different level of that empowerment and that feminism of how you want to live your life.
And that sense of security and feeling proud of what you are doing or have done. It's different for everyone. So all of a sudden, I feel like everything we're talking about starts to clarify why people are starting to feel, why we feel like everything's moving in on us, because you start to hear all the different pressures and responsibilities and why and how we internalize those pressures and responsibilities. And we haven't even, and all those pressures and responsibilities are just our immediate surroundings. It hasn't even moved outward into work and society and planet and politics and whatever, right? We haven't even gotten there yet. We're still processing how we're viewing what we're doing in our immediate home, that no one has any idea of what's going on in your home anyway, but you feel as if people know, right? So you feel like it needs to look a certain way and be a certain way, or like, so for me, from my perspective, growing up and really being a part of like that spiritual community, everyone has this false sense of like, oh no, everything's good and fine. Like everything's fine. Like, because if you're struggling, then you're not being spiritual. You're not understanding spirituality if you're struggling. And obviously that's not true at all. It's just having tools to help you through the struggle. Right. And yet people in the spiritual community all behave as if, well, if you need something, just manifest it. And if that's not working for you, then you need to get into meditation more. And listen, I'm all for living in meditation because you do find the way through, but you won't, when you're in meditation, the way through isn't shown necessarily in that moment, in that meditation. It comes at different times, at different hours, and there's just so much work you have to put behind it that I think that creates a different sense of pressure too. Like, you should have this figured out. You should have the answers.
Yeah, and I think a lot of life lessons need to build on each other. There's a lot of things that I am learning now in this year that I couldn't accept and learn last year.
No.
There were certain lessons that I need to learn about myself, about my own foundation, about how I viewed the world, my view of love, my view of men, so many things that needed to be built on. And then now I feel like I'm just learning some of those things or putting them into practice. They're actually being absorbed. I see a tail.
They're just in and out, in and out. I think that's such a valid point. I never thought about that, right? I mean, I understand how timing has to be there to learn what it is we need to learn, right? But when you think about it from that perspective of like, there's no way I could have learned or was ready or was in the headspace to understand this, that, or the other way, and that's, I'd say that goes for all of us 100%, and you don't really know you're not in that headspace until a year later and you look back. It's funny because I was just talking about this in the paranormal world when we talk about like spirits that are stuck or not ready to cross over, whatever that is. And I always explain it like, a spirit that is quote unquote stuck, it's no different than you being in a job or in a relationship that you aren't ready to leave and it's bad or toxic.
Yeah.
And you're just stuck in that habitual behavior and you're not ready to get out. And then once you get out, you're like, oh, you literally see the light, right? And it's the same as spirits that are stuck in between realms. It's just they're not ready. They're just not ready. And when they are ready, they see the light and they move on. Just like if you're in a bad job, you see the light and you get out. But it takes time and it takes life experience to get you to see that light and move on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That makes me think of when I had my son, I had a really difficult pregnancy, gave birth, and, everything is like your brain is gone, like all the hormones, you're just like adjusting. And I had suspected that my ex was cheating, and I was trying to gather evidence and things like that. Well, someone had sent me a Facebook message with some evidence and proof and things like that. But for some reason, I didn't see it. And I mean, I was pretty active on Facebook in like 2014. I did not see the message. And I didn't see it until about 3 weeks after, when you have that first little dip in your hormones and you feel a little bit normal. I'm looking through my phone and I see the message and I'm like, what? How did I not? And thankfully, I didn't see it when they sent it, which was in my last couple of weeks of pregnancy. It would have not, there was someone, one of my guides, universe, somebody who said, no, the timing's not right. That's not going to be the best thing for you.
Wow.
Wait a second. I'll bring it to you when you need to see that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when it was brought to you, where you were able to digest it, and yeah.
And I was able to like pack up my kids, make those clear-headed decisions that before I don't think I would have made clear decisions.
Yeah. How could you have, right? Literally, it's called what baby brain?
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Oh, that was in 2014?
Yes.
Whew, come a long way since then.
Yeah, a long time ago.
But I'm sure that doesn't feel that long ago. I mean, when you think about it.
That's a different person. Like when I think back, even just 5 years ago, I'm like, who is that woman? I don't know her anymore.
That's a good place to be, though. That's a good place to be, because it means you're growing and changing. That's what you want.
Yeah.
How else are you guys feeling out there? Anyone else want to share how they're feeling? What's going on? Anything? I mean, you don't have to share your private life, where you can share your private life. Just tell us what you're needing or how you're feeling.
Maybe like a word. Like if you don't want to say too much, just a word of how, like an emotion. Have we been talking for 42 minutes? Oh, I love this.
I know. Well, almost 43. I hope the future treats you much kinder, Meg.
You too, Abba. I hope there's a lot of kindness in our future. Ooh, 2 words from Kimberly.
Overwhelmed and grateful. Those are good words. I feel like, that's a great, I feel like all of us could say we feel that. When I go to sleep at night, I notice that if I'm having trouble sleeping, I do start to check off what I'm grateful for. But things I'm genuinely grateful for, not like what, people say you should, like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I genuinely, like, what would really break me if that person or animal or whomever wasn't here, and that tends to help me fall asleep, and help me move out of the overwhelmed. And I notice I'll fall asleep pretty quick after I just start becoming super conscious of what I'm grateful for. Because when you're in gratitude, you're more present, and overwhelmed takes us out of the presence. Yeah. And it brings us into the past, into the future, into the what could be, what should have been. But gratitude is what really does bring us right here and right now. Because anyway, thank you for that, Kimberly. Those are 2 really strong words.
Yeah, that's so great. It's almost a little bit of like a dichotomy of like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelmed, but I'm so grateful.
Yeah, because there's always something that even if it's just the roof over your head and the job that's paying for the roof over your head,
You've got a lot. That's a lot to be grateful for.
I think, this spirals all the way back to that doom scrolling, right? Because social media makes us believe or think that we should have more, others have some. I mean, it's all silliness. Like, to me, it's all silliness, it's just an exaggerated BS, and I think the truth is especially I feel like, I mean, actually, at my age, I guess I haven't been watching the influx of influencer, kind of the influencer experience, but I have noticed, like, on TikTok, a lot of videos getting views that are just real humane experiences that couldn't be staged, that are just us. There's one person in particular, one woman in particular, who just, was having a menopausal meltdown, and it was just super, like, raw, and she didn't have a lot of followers, but that video caught everyone's attention because she was just in her feelings, and I think that extreme is going to continue to come out to balance out the other extreme.
Yeah, I think that Instagram was so popular, 5 to 7 years ago, and everything was so curated and beautiful. And I would consume these, beautiful baking influencers, or people that would do fashion, or, people that would do makeup, and everything was so curated and so beautiful. And then TikTok came out and kind of blew up during the pandemic, where we were all like, what is happening, in every way. And then it became like, oh, you don't really have to, like, put on makeup. And then the people that are going viral and that people consuming content is not perfect little content.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like raw people, or really funny personalities. Or one lady that I follow now, she did a video that went extremely viral, where she bought a bottle of peaches from Costco, and she's like reaching in this jar to get these peaches, and her personality is so funny and so hilarious. She's not a gorgeous person. She's not like with great lighting and making it like, but that's what shined through.
Yeah.
And everybody else reacted to it also. So I think collectively we're not looking for that fake world anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for, hey, let's be real. Talk about real stuff that's going on. I just saw a TikTok this morning of a guy. It was a short little 15-second. He's crying, and he goes, I'm sorry I'm crying. I'm on a sugar-free diet, and my grandmother just made this chocolate cake, and she gave me a piece of chocolate cake, and I'm going to eat it because one day she's not going to be here to make her chocolate cake. And he's just like crying. I'm like, oh, that's the exception. Everyone is commenting like, of course, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. That's
it doesn't.
And that's all he just wanted to share, that one little blip, that one little moment. And we need that. We need to share those moments, because he didn't have anybody else to tell.
Yeah.
In that room. So he got on social media and said, let me share this moment with you. And that's what we need to cultivate more of. Just share. Everybody just share your moments. I want to see that. I want to listen.
And that's in the comments are his community of support.
Yeah.
That remind him that he's okay. Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you for that. Thank you for the conversation tonight. Thank you all for listening. Hopefully you guys walk away feeling a little bit lighter. Put on something funny before you go to bed tonight. Laugh a little bit and feel grateful. And then let's see if we're back next week with Seth. Thank you, Meg. Love you.
Love you. Good night.
Good night, you guys.